Assassination Classroom, Season 1, Episode 5.
人数分の器具を一度に運ぶのは先生の職種の数でも無理でしょ。
I bet he could. I bet this is another one of those things that's an exercise for the student's benefit. Right. Or maybe he's just lonely. In fact, I suspect he's very lonely. I think he's holding in a lot. He's preparing to die as he trains his own killers. He knows calamity is coming, whether it's through him or some other thing he's expecting. He is, as far as we know, the only non-human in a human world. There's a lot of emotions, and yet he is literally a smiley emoji. Either he genuinely has a really positive spirit despite those things, or he's able to always be and show his best despite those feelings, which in either case shows a tremendous amount of character and heart.
ねえ先生。はい。ここには慣れた？E組にさ。
あ、それ聞いちゃうんだ。
皆さんの担任をできるのはとても楽しいですね。
I think the students are quickly starting to really enjoy him as their teacher as well.
ちゃんと勉強教えてくれるからギリギリ OK じゃない？
I respect that these students actually care about studies, even after they've been like thrown to the depths of student hell.
さあ、授業を始めますよ。
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of chemistry either. I get it. Chemistry was the beginning of the end. It doesn't seem like he's going to be the focus of this episode, but Karma is one of the characters so far I'm most excited to see. Like I said before, he's the kind of kid who really wants to care. Come to think of it, one of the most interesting experiences I had teaching. I had this one kid who was a good kid, but very disruptive, kind of aggressive. But I liked having him in the class because he was sharp and he was interesting and his challenges were interesting and there was something else there. But then suddenly, like a year after I had taught him and after I left the school, he got a hold of my email and we started corresponding and he was talking about all the strides he was making in English and his dreams of going abroad. And he was very kind in what he said about his memories of the class, which those moments are kind of a mixed bag because one, it's not always apparent that you're doing things right. Two, there's like an instinct to push it out because like it's come up a lot in the show so far. I think one of the hardest things but best things about any role of service like teaching is that there's always more you can do. So there's a little bit of like a desire to not be hit with the full impact of what you're doing because if you were to look at that more closely, you would either have to do more or you'd have to feel guilty. So you want to like deny. And relatedly, three, it's that Schindler's List thing of like, I could have done so much more. Episode 5, Assembly Time. All of them have time, huh?
真っ赤だな。はい。お菓子から着色料を取り出す実験はこれで終了。
Watch all of these lessons become very useful in taking him down. I bet he's giving him the recipe for his own destruction.
地球を滅ぼす超生物がなんで給料で暮らしてんのよ。
I was wondering the same thing. I mean, he has standards and values. He's got a code of honor. What seems to be the matter? Girl who's been invisible until now.
どこです？飲んでください。
You can't just ask me.
ストレートだな。
ダメですか？
Yes, I can't just give it to you.
みんなみたいに不意打ちとかうまくできなくて。
This took a lot of courage.
でも科学なら得意なんで真心込めて作ったんです。
Oh, now to think about it, hearing this out loud. Okay, for him, there's something compelling.
いただきます。
Wow. I mean, he's probably immune or doesn't have a human digestive system. He's analyzing the chemicals and maybe even separating them and making new compounds. Right. Stands to reason. But A+ effort on that sodium hydrochloroxide. He's still going.
今度は羽が生えた。無駄に豪華な顔になってきたぞ。 酢酸タリウムですね。
I feel like we haven't even seen his true form yet. He's probably doing the smiley face thing for them or for us. Oh, that's kind of cute.
真顔になった。
He looks like the Michelin blimp dude. Michelin man. I mean, he literally is an emoji. If I was Nagisa, I would just give up on the notes. This is too tiring. It's too much. There's too many colors. It just seems bottomless. His facial emoji capacity.
一緒に先生を殺す毒薬を研究しましょう。
ターゲットと一緒に作る毒薬ね。
I guess what's the bigger game here, right? It's their spirits and their initiative. And I think this was a win because she feels encouraged. In a way that's not pandering. It actually is like based on doing work.
ここ暑いよね。ねえ、ガラスマン。
暑いなら近づくな。
Oh, failed. She's had it rough lately.
お前も教師としてとどまるつもりなら。
Pull yourself together.
それ以外がさっぱりで、E組に落とされても仕方ないです。
This is one of the problems with school.
言葉の良し悪しとか、人間の複雑な感情表現とか、何が正解かわからなくて、でも それで構いません。数式や化学式は
I mean, she's just articulating herself very eloquently right now. I don't think it's a talent problem.
先生から宿題をあげましょう。くれぐれも取り扱
Oh, this is really interesting because there's multiple ways to approach this. One of the biggest problems with typical education, typically it's a one-size-fits-all approach, and that works in multiple ways at once. We don't really have a way of sorting aptitude and tailoring for aptitude for each individual student. You're expected to do everything well, and that is non-advantageous to some students. And also, I'd say, is increasingly non-representative of the world kids are growing up into, because actually the world's getting increasingly specialized. You need a broad range of things less than ever, I would argue. And the things that are still broadly applicable we don't learn in school anyway. As a side note, I think actually somehow or another, young kids are picking up on this. The things they're learning are decreasingly representing the success they're seeing, whether that's an accurate picture or not, which feeds back into decreased willingness to participate in school at all, which may even be coming from parents also. I think the actual truth of the matter is that school isn't necessarily all for the students, it's for society. And so there are casualties that are acceptable in the system if you get really bright, shining stars that contribute in disproportionate measure. And either those students will excel at everything initially because of overall aptitude, or by giving everyone the broadest spectrum, you create the starting points for people who will be geniuses or specialize in one particular field that they can choose to specialize in later. I think that's a general concept. Nevertheless, there are casualties. It also is a one-size-fits-all thing in terms of like behavior and ability. There's a pretty well-known phenomenon in education where in a big class, you end up teaching towards the middle, and it's very easy to miss or neglect the highest performing and lowest performing students. The highest performing students, you can safely ignore them because they're crushing it no matter what. They don't really demand attention in the same way. And the lowest students, sadly, you just give up on because it's like, well, whatever I do, you're going to fail anyway. But thinking about each individual student as a person, that obviously is not optimal for them. This girl's case is interesting because in terms of the individual pursuits, it might be just better and more advantageous for her to follow her gifts and to get special counseling in that so she can like push that as far as it can go. And I think that probably is the answer if the game we're playing is future contribution to a field. But I'm guessing that Koro sensei is going to play a more zoomed out game of character, in which case it's probably better to confront the weakness in this moment. There's a meta skill that's maybe more important of learning to overcome a weakness when that area is important to you. That might end up being more useful and important than whatever your future major or profession or what have you. Because you will undoubtedly come across that same challenge in your profession.
理論上はこれが一番効果あるって。毒物の正しい保管方法まで漫画にしてある。
This dude also draws manga. Is there anything he can't do?
自分を殺す毒薬か。
That's pretty good.
あの先生、何考えてんだ?
His colleagues are either going to love him or hate him, which will say a lot about them. But I think eventually, over a long enough timeline, everyone loves him.
おや、さすがです。
There's a line though, like you can't
では早速いただきます。
pander. You have to be lovingly honest.
薬のおかげで先生を
This is the wrong direction, but what are you gonna do? Blow up the sun? Thanks, Okuda.
液状ゆえにどんな隙間
Oh,
にも
he's
入り込むこと
T-1000 from
が可能
Terminator.
に
Throw him in the lava. I'll bet he's actually tricking her into making a speech or something.
どんなに優れた毒を作れても今回のようにバカ正直に渡したのではターゲットに利用されて終わりです
yeah, right. Here it is.
先生の好きな甘いジュースで毒を割って、はい、
ラビュー
特製ジュースだと言って渡す。
Did you say love you?
上手な毒の盛り方それに必
Here
要
it
な
is.
のが国語です君の理科の才能は将来みんなの役に立てられますそれを多くの人に分かりやすく伝えるために毒を渡す国語力も鍛えてください
Yeah. This is something I've been thinking about a lot. I don't know why, especially lately. I started noticing it in people around me, and then, as often happens, then you realize how much it applies to you, even though you didn't want to think it did. The more I think about it, the more I think there's just way too much identity-based assessment. Taking skills, for example, I'm good at this, I'm bad at this. I get where it's coming from, and there's something there, right? But that is not real in the way it feels. There is no thing good at or bad at. Skill is something that you build. We know this about other things. Like, let's say I say I'm poor, and the feeling behind that is not like at this current moment, I don't have money that I feel is sufficient for me to live, but it's like I am a poor, you know, like I am poor as perpetual state. I am 6'1". I am a poor. No, it has no bearing. There is no classifier that way that is definitive of what you can and can't do. But that ends up being a very good example of a self-fulfilling prophecy because if it's like, oh, I just have no talent in this, well then, yeah, that's the end, right? Where do you even go from there? It's just something to be developed. It even gets to like an absurd level of obviousness. It's like, of course you're not good at this. Like many things, why was the standard of measurement or comparison perfection from the beginning? I think this is one of those things that's obvious to everyone in some ways, but then like the more you think about it, the more you realize you're probably doing it in some way at least. The identity of the thing is not the thing, and generally, as far as I can think right now, does little or nothing for the development of the thing, or it's an obstacle. I also think it distracts from things that probably matter more, like the moment and your choices. Maybe one of the biggest and most common ones is also one of the most obvious and ridiculous, which is I'm a terrible person or I'm a good person. No one is either of those things. Yeah, it's sort of an effective shortcut way of summarizing the way we feel about people, but from there it gets pushed too far where it becomes a label not meant to understand but to write off, to avoid understanding. And yeah, to be perfectly honest, and for the sake of argument, I think it's reasonable to assume there is some kind of physical, unchanging component somewhere in aptitude and intelligence. But then also from experience, I think as long as you're above like some very bare minimum of that, hard work and dedication and methodology and deliberateness is going to carry most of that weight.
みんなやっぱり暗殺以前の問題だね。
コロ先生の力の前では
He looks very happy.
猛毒を持った生徒でもただの生徒になってしまう。まだまだ先生の命に迫れる生徒は
It's funny, but also understandable how quickly they became enamored with him, because I feel the same. Also noticing about these kids, so far, at least from what we've seen, they're surprisingly cohesive and supportive of each other, which I'm going to guess maybe comes from the fact that they've all been collectively ostracized.
もうなんで私たちだけこんな思いしなきゃいけないの？いきなり
Oh, it's time for Shogi Secrets with our favorite Kunodon.
成績不振の言い組は
Speaking of poison, cut off the infected limb. The first student casualty.
規律を守るために他のクラスよりも先に
Whose side are you on, Kokudon?
決まりなんだ。
Kokudon feeling a little bit judgmental right now. Kokudon, I believed in you. I thought you were one of us. Also, it's possible the school is trying to murder them so they don't show up.
あいつなんかすごい。
Yeah, why is it always him? Beats chemistry. Yeah, Okujima put them on their backs in this forest excursion. I bet some of they're still calling her that. Some of these students are gonna wish they were in E class after seeing her.
だらしねえな、ビッチ先生。
ヒールで走ると倍疲れるのよ。
She just like accepted it.
生徒たちの前に姿を晒すわけにはいかないからな。
That's the reason.
旧校舎に待機させている。
Oh, I bet he hates being left out. Just for devil's advocate, I don't think the idea of like separating students is entirely a bad thing. It actually, if we're treating the argument in good faith, can be an attempt at addressing the problem I mentioned earlier of a one-size-fits-all package. Conceptually, I understand the merits of taking low-performing students and putting them in a class where they can get the special attention they need instead of always losing out to the middle. I don't think that is negatively discriminatory, and I don't think it's wrong to recognize there are different levels of aptitude, because that itself is not a judgment, or it's not a character judgment or like a good or bad judgment. I also can see how it's not fair to the nerds who actually want to participate and learn to have their classes continually disrupted by the most basic of behavioral problems. In practice, though, the problem that often emerges is both of those groups just get shoved into the same class. So you get like the kids who, for whatever reason, never learned multiplication with that kid who threw a knife at the teacher one time. You know, it's like, it's not the same thing, but often it's a resource issue. You also, just for one reason or another, you end up getting a small number of students that are great, wonderful, friendly kids who also are great students. It's just like they were misassessed at some point in their careers. As I think will probably come up in this show, some teacher or administrator for one reason or another just took to not liking them. So those like isolated classes end up getting really weird.
要するに君たちは全国からより優れたエリートです。
Except for you, 3E.
が油断していると
You'll become them.
誰かさんたちみたいに
They're using them, yeah. They're using them as... This is all deliberate. They are the scapegoats in this exercise.
仲介ふけて罰食らっても痛くも痒くもないってさ。成績良くて素行不良って。
What a sentence when you put it that way.
落ちこぼれまいとする意識を今のうちから強く育てる。悲しいかな。人間は差別し軽蔑する対象があった方が伸びるのです。
Man.
私は常に合理で動く。
Oh, so he's Nezu. This is what I expected Nezu to be for My Hero Academia. Yeah, this is very Nezu, right? That's why I thought Nezu would be evil, because that's often how that goes. Finally, I get my Nezu character. Logic is so poorly cited, so poorly used. Like, I think it's really important. But first of all, just from experience, and I'll include myself in this, being truly adherent to pure logic is more difficult than it appears. And you can't just say logic to make something logical. But then maybe more difficult is that it's possible to be logically correct and also wrong, depending on the premises you're following. And the premises are probably like where the magic happens anyway. We're also quick to judge things as illogical, and they may very well be illogical towards what we think the aim is or what someone's stated aim is. But often we're not even truly aware of our actual motivations. And so what we're doing may even be logical in that sense. I actually think in that way, people are more logical than they appear. They're just like following very weird premises towards very mixed and misunderstood goals. This applies to school also. School actually is very logical and does make a lot of sense towards what I think the actual goal is. It works very well towards some things, but there's a disconnect and it turns into something that is a total scam because we're told it's this thing and it's not actually productive towards that thing.
生徒会は準備を始めてください。
どうも。
誰だあの先生。
A 組担任のカラスマで
としててかっこいい。
別校舎なのでこの場を借りてご挨拶を。
There's also another universe where the principal is doing this for class 3E.
ナイスケースで凝ったんだ。かわいいっしょ。
可愛いのはいいか。
Alright, this is covert.
なんか仲良さそう。いいな。
Yeah, I feel like that would happen, right? That does happen. They're gonna get really tight because of the adversity. And then there's this. Yeah, I predicted it. This is what really matters. She is a professional after all. It's good she can crush it in her actual area of expertise. Not much to look at. Is that why we're here to evaluate the talent in the high school class? Okay.
今その手帳お姉さんに渡しなさいよ。
What my notebook lacks in insightfulness, it makes up for in volume. I know it'll come in handy one day though.
実測させろよ。苦しい。
And that was the day everyone deliberately failed their exams so they can join 3E.
ピッチ。なんだ。
I think the show might break the anime B-word record.
いい思いしやがって。
The current top rank holder is Dandadan. In fact, I think we already broke it. Like in the first 5 episodes. We're just the last 2. That's how this goes too, right? There's this cycle. Outcasts who can't be included in the main group give up on it, give up trying to please them, which has the unintended but positive side effect of making one more free for self-expression, combined with shared difficulty and mutual understanding around the difficulty, and so more cohesiveness, that then sort of does their own thing, does cool stuff, starts to look really unified and fun, and then people start to take notice. And then it's either admiration and respect, or this kind of thing of hatred, because it's threatening. The established order is being challenged.
今皆さんに配ったプリントが生徒会行事の詳細です。
え、何？俺たちの分は？
You're a waste of paper.
おかしいな。
Well, I wonder how that
ごめん
happened.
なさい。3の E の分忘れたみたい。
Where are the parents in this?
品質。
Your insults mean nothing to me. Because I see what you people cheer for. You're not supposed to be here. And this disguise, I hope, fools no one.
なんで？誰だよ。笑いどころ。
Who killed our fun? Wow, we really said that out loud.
全校の場に顔を出すなと言っただろ。
He was lonely, couldn't help it. This is his weakness. This is how we kill him.
いいじゃないですか。
We just stop inviting him to stuff, and we lay a trap. He's highly social, extremely extroverted.
妙にでかいし、関節が曖昧だぞ。しかも隣の先生に
This is so weird if you don't understand what's going on. It's weird even if you do understand what's going on.
しょうがねえな、ビッチ先生は。
They're not supposed to be laughing. Can they do that? Are they allowed to do that? They're not allowed to laugh. They suck.
お前らさ、ちょっと調子乗ってない。
This is hilarious. It's so stupid.
あの程度の生徒に屈しはしませんよ。私を暗殺しようとする生徒たちはね。
Oh, your nose fell off.
殺すぞ。あ？
Well, they can destroy him.
殺す。
They're
殺す。
This is light work. It's not even worth it. He did mention that bloodlust that one time, which is alarming.
殺そうとしたことなんてないくせに。
Right, there's not much you can do to actually be truly threatening to anyone who's doing what we're doing.
私の生徒たちはやる気が違います。
They have a bigger target. Yeah, it's meaningless. I think this assembly flipped the script a little bit.
それは私の学校では合理的
Oh, you've made a powerful enemy. The principal.
少し改善する必要がある。
He looks like literally Satan.
暗殺よりも優先事項だ。
Okay, I think this character could be more interesting than he initially appears. He just seems to be like this evil dude. Look at my logic, haha. I'm so logical, I'm so logical. It's just logic, you idiot. What are you, illogical? I'll play this petty emotional game for academics. It's science. But when he was first introduced, I was thinking like, it was possible that there would have been a twist where he goes, actually this is for class 3E, because it's unclear who this benefits more. He's gonna come around and he's gonna see what's more important. He's gonna get a different set of premises that are probably better. But interestingly, he now has something in common with Koro sensei, which is that the assassination is second priority. Only he and Koro right now are thinking about students in light of a world-ending event. So that creates like an interesting thing for his character potentially in the future.